Why are we not side by side? There we go. I think we're live.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Just waiting for the messages.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being able to join us tonight. We're going to do our formal introduction in just a moment or two, but hope everybody's had a good day. Mondays are always interesting days of the week, and some people dread them and some people just love them because it's a new start to a new week. So hopefully you're in the latter category and your day went great. So hopefully you can have a good evening with us tonight.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Amber Salenbier of Knots Untied Within, and I'm joined with Holly.
Hi there, I'm Holly Pitas of getfeelingbetter.com, and we are both certified emotion code practitioners. In addition, Amber is also a body code practitioner. And so thank you for joining us tonight. We are looking for volunteers. And I believe that Amber has typed the parameters into the comments, but just so you are aware, we're going to ask you for a couple of things, and then we'll go on to talk a little bit more about what we do. But if you are interested in volunteering, we would like you to say yes in the comments. We're going to ask you for us to identify what your challenge is actually in terms of going back to school, if you're a teacher or if it's your kids, and if it's fear of COVID, or they just don't like school anyway. And then we're also going to ask for a severity level, 1 to 10. And so otherwise, Amber, can you tell everyone a little bit about what we're going to do tonight?
Absolutely. So a lot of people are feeling a lot of different emotions right now about with kids going back to school and what that's going to look like. So we want to clear as much negative emotions from you that we can, feelings of anxiousness, maybe sadness, worry. Any types of those feelings can actually get lodged within the body and cause your body to react negatively towards them. So they'll get stuck within the body. And what we want to do is to try to make it easier for you through those transitions. So in order to have a successful emotion code session today, there are 7 keys that we use. The first one is to be hydrated. So I've got my water, and I'm sure Holly has hers. And we just ask that you be hydrated as well. We also use a magnet. And the magnet goes down the governing meridian in order to release. So once we've identified what trapped emotion you have within your body, then we go ahead and we use a magnet along the governing meridian in order to release those. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, before we even do that, though, you need to identify what your issue is. And so as we said at the beginning, tonight we're talking about going back to school. And so whatever that means to you. So let us know what your issue is. And then again, let us know the severity of it between 1 to 10. We talked about permission. And again, Amber had talked about using the magnets. That's the kinesthetic muscle testing system that we use. With the emotion code, we base our work on what we've learned from Dr. Bradley Nelson. And so this is his book that was released just last year. And it is, he's the one who discovered the emotion code. And it's a way of, according to his description, it is events from our past. They could be a major trauma event, or it could be something minor as a misunderstanding, but for whatever reason that gets lodged in our body somehow, in our body's energy system, and it creates a blockage. And so by having these negative trapped emotions, that is what is causing some difficulties in our current day life. So I think Amber has a really good way of explaining it, using water as a method to explain what happens when it's trapped.
the methodology or the analogy that I like to use is you have an energy flow within your body, and we all have one. And what happens is, you can get these trapped emotions, and it's like a picture stream of water. And what we think is a pebble, you got into a fight, with someone, or an argument with someone, and you just kind of brush it off. And what you're actually thinking is a pebble is actually a boulder. And what happens is when that boulder goes into the stream, which is your energy flow, it actually creates, it can't go around, right? Your energy can't go around, the water can't go around. So it starts to go around the sides. And what happens is it causes distortion. And so it needs to create a new way around this boulder. And that goes actually into your physical tissue. So it starts affecting you physically, whether it's pain, in your knee or your hip or your shoulders, or it can come across as, feelings of depression, anxiousness, stuff like that. So what we do is we go in and we try and clear that boulder, essentially, by identifying it, bringing it to the surface of the energy field, and then using the magnets to release it.
Yeah, that's a great explanation, Amber. And while you were doing that, I'm still trying to come to terms with being live on Zoom and Facebook. So this is the first night that we are blending our two. So we are live on Amber's Knots Untied Within Facebook and .com, and also live on my Get Feeling Better Facebook page. And so working out with the technology, it sometimes has a mind of its own, but we're figuring it out. Amber's far more advanced than I am, but I finally found where we are live on my page, and I am viewing our comments on my phone. So
if you're watching live, awesome. Leave a comment. Tell us where you're coming from, who you are. We'd like to acknowledge that you're watching, and we thank you for being here. And if you'd like to volunteer, if you have feelings of, that are coming up about your child or children going back to school, or even them going back to school, we can clear emotions from children. I'm doing mine all the time as different feelings are coming up, with them returning back to school in September for us. I connect to their energy and clear as much as they can.
Yes, and for people that are not really familiar with the emotion code, when Amber's saying that we connect to your energy, it's similar to what we're doing right now. You're in your home, or you're watching us on your phone. We are in our own homes, and yet we are connected through the internet. It's the same thing if you were going to have a phone call with a friend. You're in your own homes, and through the magic of the telephone company, you can pick up a phone on each end and you are able to speak to each other. You've probably even had the occurrence of having thoughts of a friend, and you're thinking about them, they're running across your mind maybe for a day or two, or just for a couple of minutes, and the next thing you know, the phone rings and it's them, or you get an email from them or something. So that's how the energy is exchanged. And when we are asking direct yes or no questions to your energy system, so this is where the permission part comes in. You give us permission to connect with you energetically. And then we can ask questions directly to your subconscious, because that's where all of your memories are stored. And I want to emphasize that these are not intrusive questions. We're not going to ask anything that you wouldn't want someone to know in a general conversation. So if, for example, we're talking about your children being fearful of going back to school, we would ask a question like, am I fearful of going back to school? So we're going to connect energetically, say, with Susie. And so then as Susie, once we're connected, I would say, am I afraid of going back to school? And the answer would be yes or no. It's a direct yes or no. And then if the answer is no, then maybe I would say, well, do I have any anxiety about going back to school? Or am I worried about going back to school? Or am I worried about being away from my family during the pandemic. So we can ask a bunch of different questions to kind of get at the root of whatever that issue is for the person. And again, they're just direct yes or no questions. And once we identify that, yes, maybe Susie is afraid to go to school because she's going to have to wear a mask and she's going to be uncomfortable. So she's actually more afraid of being uncomfortable with the mask on than the actual physical aspect of being in school among her friends. Then what we could do is say, well, is there a trapped emotion that is causing this concern about the mask? And then that is where we use the emotion code chart. And so this is a definition of 60 different emotions. And so when Amber and I are doing a session, we're going to say things like, is it in column A or column B? Is it in row even? Is it in row odd? And then we're going to be able to zero in on whatever those particular emotions are. We ask if we can release the emotion. And then if the answer is yes, then we release it using the magnet. And as Amber had said, we just run it over our governing meridian. And then once it is released, then again, we test again for the severity.
So we have Melissa from Calgary saying hi. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
And I promised my little one, his name is Charlie, that I would say hello because every time I'm on, he's always like, Mommy, and he's waving at the camera. So hi, Charlie. Hi, Joshua. So I thought I would give them a shout out too.
You have some great sons. I've had the pleasure of meeting her sons via Zoom. So I'm located in Stoughton, Wisconsin, which is in the Midwest. If people know where Chicago is, I'm about 120 miles north of Chicago. And Amber, my friend to our great Canadian north is, I think we figured out you're about 500 miles north of where I am. But
I'm about an hour west of Toronto, so I'm in Cambridge, Ontario, and I'm kind of in between, London, Ontario, and Toronto, Ontario, in this great city of Cambridge.
Yeah, so one of the neat things with the technology, both the internet technology or telephone technology, and also the technology of using the emotion code, we are able to connect with you anywhere in the world. So that's a great advantage for everybody. Nobody has to travel, nobody has to go and lie on a couch and answer a bunch of invasive questions. And so Amber and I are both able to do deep dives and longer sessions with people if they've got some particular things that they want to work on. It's sort of like peeling the layers of an onion. So kind of, you might have just one little thing that you want to work on originally, but then as you start opening these gates of the emotions that you have possibly trapped over your lifetime, you can go deeper and deeper and get better and better results for whatever it is you're looking for. So we can do some very quick emotion code sessions with people. Sometimes people just want like 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes they want to have a series of an hour that happen over a month-long period or something. So it's great that this system is very fast. And although you can read the book yourself, the emotion code, and Dr. Bradley does give you suggestions on how you can release some things for yourself, working with a certified practitioner is actually something that is beneficial for you because Amber and I have both been schooled in certain techniques that we don't have to do as much fishing as someone does in the beginning. And so we can help you zero in. So, and one of the other things about working on yourself is that sometimes it's hard to read on yourself. You can do it, but it's a little bit more difficult. I think it's also something like, going to a friend and saying, well, I'm having a feeling that people are being put off by something that I do. And, and your friend will say, well, yeah, this is this is a habit that you do. And it could be off-putting to people. And then, you'll go, really? Do I do that? I didn't know that I do that. And so it's that old expression of you can't see the forest for the trees, so that sometimes it's hard to zero in on things.
It is. I mean, I often go to other practitioners and exchange sessions because I find that they can pull things out of me that I'm not able to. Bypassing your own subconscious, can be tricky because you have this thing, as humans, we have expectations, and, we put these expectations, whether they're conscious or subconscious, of how the outcome is going to be, and so by going to somebody else and using another practitioner, people are able to clear things from me that I may not have gotten to until later on, because I'm putting these blockages up and these expectations on myself. So I really like it. I enjoy working with people. I've got, clients all over the world. I've got clients in India, Australia. So, when they're messaging me at, 3:00 in the afternoon for them, for example, and it's in the middle of the night, I can get to them when I can. Most of my clients are through Messenger or through Zoom. I'm able to connect with them at a time that it is more convenient for me, so that they know that they are being heard and they are being taken care of.
Yes, and I think just going back to practitioners working on themselves, or partnering up with someone, or an individual working on themselves, a lot of times you are dealing with your emotions, and you are also emotionally attached to the outcome. And one of the nice things about working with a practitioner is that we don't have any preconceived ideas. We don't have any attachment to any answer. And so, and because if we're talking about a trauma, we could say, well, did a traumatic event happen? And maybe we can identify an age. It was somewhere around 20 or somewhere around 45. And so we don't really need to know what the traumatic event was. So it's not going to stir all of those emotions in us. We're able to just, again, zero in on what's going to be the most effective solution for you and release the emotions. And it's pretty interesting how you feel. There's also a processing event that happens after an emotion code session. For some people, you don't even feel anything during the session. Some people feel kind of tingly, or if we're working on a discomfort spot, it might be hot or cold or something. You might have some sort of sensation in your body. And then there are other people, again, who just don't really feel anything. After the session, sometimes people just feel tremendous. Sometimes they feel very tired. Sometimes you sleep incredibly well. Sometimes you can be a little bit edgy. And so there's this processing system that happens, and it's very unpredictable for how it's actually going to process for you. And you can have, suppose we were talking about discomfort in a shoulder, you could have one session where your shoulder feels tingly and you feel really excited afterwards and you feel great. And you might re-injure your shoulder, and you will have another session and you're going to feel very tired. Your shoulder's going to maybe even feel worse for a day or two. You're going to be a little cranky. And then all of a sudden you're going to realize that the pain has just disappeared. So I think that's one of the most interesting things about it. It seems these things that are annoying us just sort of seem to vanish. And so it's really pretty tremendous.
Absolutely. So I've got some other people watching. Greta says hi from Brantford. Diana has given a heart. So if you're watching, and you'd like some emotions cleared around going back to school, your kids going back to school, put it in the comments, your name, the severity level of 1 to 10, and what kind of emotions are you feeling? And then we can go further in and help you release some of those really tough emotions that a lot of us seem to be going through with, kids going back to school in September, or I think it's August for some kids in the States, isn't it, Holly?
You know what? I don't know how to answer that. No one really knows. So the area that I am in, there's a couple of different school districts. So like some cities and some small towns, and it's still very much up in the air. And so they're talking about, yes, everybody's going to go to sit in the classroom as traditionally they do. And others are saying, no, there's nothing happening in the school building. Everybody's going to be at home. It's going to be online learning. Some people say a couple of days a week, some of the kids will be in school, and the other couple of days, other kids will be in the school. Teachers have no idea what to prepare for or how to prepare. There's a lot of people that are uncertain about childcare, that, who knows what's happening. And it seems like any decisions they make are just subject to change at this point.
It is. When do your kids normally go back? Like if it was non-COVID, did they go back in August normally?
Yeah, it's usually somewhere around the last week of August or the first week of September. And so then typically if it's the last week of August, a lot of times teachers are in the schools beginning of August because they're setting up their classrooms and getting prepared. And, parents are taking kids shopping to get clothes for school and books and notebooks and things like that. And I think it's just anybody's guess as to what's really going to happen. So that in itself is incredibly stressful, on top of the normal stress that we usually would feel when we're getting ready to go back for school.
Absolutely. We have some more comments. Diana says, I had a couple of sessions with Amber. She took care of my carpal tunnel and knee pain, and I feel great. 0 pain since. So thank you for that. Some people, react really well to it, and pain can go away in as little as 1 session. Typically it's about 2 to 3 sessions is what I've noticed. Although, I've got clients who, were on 8, 9, 10 sessions, and while their pain is reducing each time, we haven't gotten down to 0. 0 is the goal. It's what we all strive for, but it all depends on, how many emotions you've gone through. What has your life looked like? I know for me to get rid of my hip pain, it took several sessions. But, I've gone through lots of trauma and lots of different emotions that I repress, and they've all been stored, in the places that I feel pain. And so as I continue to go on, it kept getting triggered. So, it was about a good 4 or 5 sessions before that pain was finally, it's about a 1 now. I haven't quite gotten it yet, but, up and moving around and stuff like that. So I'm glad that I was able to help you, Diana.
Yes, and one of the things that happens too is that, you can have this trigger area. So you might have had hip pain from an initial event, and then you have another event, and it's like, well, I've got all of this negative energy. I don't know where I should go. And it's like, oh, I'm going to go join the other negative energy over there in the hip. And sometimes that, can just keep piling on. And so sometimes you're able to remove some emotions from, just because you remove a negative trapped emotion doesn't mean it's removed from every single event. Sometimes it has to go, again, like the layers of an onion, that it's event by event. The other thing is that you can have everything removed. You're feeling absolutely perfect. And then boom, you have a really horrible day or experience with someone. And again, you have this negative energy, this negative emotion, and it's like, I think I'm going to go back to the hip because that was a really good place to store it. And it just happens. And I think a lot of times we have expressions that we use again, when we were talking in the beginning about it being Monday, and that for some people, Mondays are really just a bad day of the week. They're just like, oh, it's Monday. I know I'm going to get a headache, or I know I'm going to get a stomach ache because I'm, have to deal with my boss or a coworker that is maybe difficult. Or if we're talking about school, I know I used to get a stomach ache on Sunday nights when I would realize that my homework wasn't done and I was going to have to think quickly to try to get through my Monday at school because I didn't have my homework done. So, so that's one of those things that it can just find this area, and sometimes it can also move. So if you're removing the emotions from, say, the hip, suddenly your hip is feeling fine, but then you're like, oh, well, my ankle feels kind of weird, and so then we just have to travel down to the ankle and remove it from there. And eventually these emotions can leave. Most of them, I think, can leave fairly easily, but every so often there's just layers and layers. There's also additional ways of having emotion. So it's not necessarily just your trapped emotion. It could be an absorbed emotion from an event that you just witnessed. Could be, again, like a vibrational resonance of something that maybe you had kind of picked up on something, or maybe you work in a really toxic environment and it's just, it's almost like getting dirt on your clothes. You go into a dirty environment, and if you're going to go do gardening and you're kneeling in the dirt, you're going to get some dirt on your pants. And so if you're going into a toxic environment, it's just sort of around you. That energy is hard to get rid of sometimes. So that's where this system, I think, is just so incredible that it's really been able to help so many people. Dr. Nelson talks about, I'm not sure if it's many hundreds of people, thousands of people that he has been able to help. Definitely through the practitioners that he's trained, there are thousands of people that have been relieved of some of their fears and trapped emotions and pains and things like that. So we're really glad that you're joining us tonight so that we can help out in any way we can.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things is finding generations, right? So you can have inherited emotions as well. So, I think the most I've gotten so far is 121. So I've gone back, 121 generations in someone to pull out some emotion that has been carried down in the genes generation after generation after generation, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of discoveries nowadays about, our ancestors and, what goes on in our genetics and our DNA and stuff. And emotions are one of those things that actually get passed down. So, if Joe, has an emotion trapped before he conceived Mary, then, it gets passed down, right, upon conception. And it follows the line. So Mary then passes it on to her kids, who then passes it on to their kids. And so now you have, it's, that saying of, you're just like your dad, you're angry like your dad or like your mom or whatever. Those are, those vibration resonance where you're just angry all the time is the stuff that, is showing up when it comes generation to generation. And, if you look at your family line as, everyone has, a shoulder pain, chances are there's probably a lot of trapped emotions that are in that shoulder going down the line. So what we do is we, try and find whatever generation inherited emotions and try to remove that. And when we remove that, it actually removes back. So all the way back to the source and all the way going forward. So it completely clears it out of your genes and your DNA and stuff like that. So you're not carrying it around anymore.
Yes. So it is a really amazing system. And, especially if we're, from what you just described, Amber, for a lot of people, that is something that maybe they're hearing for the first time about, like the generational inheritance of temperament and things. But when you experience it, it really increases your belief in it. So I guess one of the other things that I do in terms of not working only with people, but I've got a very special heart for animals. And so I do like to work with any animal, but especially dogs. And so this is a picture of me with my very beloved Ruger, he now lives in heaven. But he was very special. And so I think when we're talking about absorbed emotions and vibrational resonance, our animals actually mirror a lot of what our emotions are. And so they can have emotions trapped also. I've also had many rescue animals, rescue dogs, and they come with a very mixed bag because they can't tell us what their story is. And so again, the emotion code is really beneficial for them. I know that we have some comrades. I guess that's the only word I can think of. But some of the other people that are doing the emotion code that work with horses, some people specialize with cats or birds. And so it's a really interesting aspect of being able to help people.
Absolutely. A lot of their behavioral issues come from trapped emotions. So if your dog is randomly barking at, people going by, we can certainly look at him or her and find out what's going on. Or the cat is doing something that repeated behavior that shouldn't be happening. Chances are it's probably a trapped emotion that keeps triggering it, because it's a vibration, right? So it keeps triggering it to continue the same behaviors. It's the same with humans. Like emotional eating is one of them. It's one of the ones that I really like to work on, because a lot of the times that we're reaching for those potato chips in the fridge or in the cupboard, it's because some emotion is being triggered. So clearing those out reduces the amounts of times you go to the cupboard, which in the long run saves you money, right? But we have let's see if you can see this. I know Holly has one too, but these are all the things that we can work on. That's so if any of these are coming up for you, then reach out to Holly and myself, and we'd be able to book a consultation, book a session, and go forward.
Yes, and so Amber, that's a beautiful menu that you have of discomforts or ailments or problem areas for people. And I would think it's pretty much the same, that people can go to your website, they can find the menu and download it. And so it really helps you prepare for your session. If you're going to have a longer session with Amber or myself, that you can go through and look at this list and go, yeah, this is a problem for me. And yeah, this has been an issue for me. And it can also help you kind of prioritize which is the greater difficulty that you want to work on. Again, when Amber was talking about going back into some of like the inherited emotions and things, it takes a little bit of time to be able to go back and research, essentially, with the asking of the questions. And so although a lot can be accomplished in one session, sometimes it can take a little bit more than one session. So, and speaking about that, I think, Amber, that we are getting close to the end of our time today. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add to our session.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you all to everyone who has joined us tonight. We look forward to seeing you next Monday. I'm not sure what we'll be working on next Monday, but sure it'll be a doozy.
It will be. And yes, so I guess if you watch each of our Facebook pages, we will have a title out there and let you know. If you've got any suggestions for us of things that you'd like to work on, or topics that you think would be good for us to cover, definitely send us a message or make a comment, and we'd be really happy to target a show for that.
Absolutely. All right, Holly, well, it's been a pleasure as always. I will see you next week.
All right, sounds terrific. Thank you so much, Amber. Bye, everybody.
Hi, guys.